Hi everybody, Joanie Somes here again with Aging Can Affect Driving, part of the On the Road to Safer Senior Driving series. As you remember, I'm an emergency room nurse, retired after 40 years, and I'm now out teaching older driver safety across the state of Minnesota and to any place I can and whenever I can. How often do you think about what driving requires? It requires the physical ability to actually manage your vehicle. That requires strength and flexibility of your muscles, including your neck muscles, your arm muscles, your leg muscles. You need to be able to see, hear, and feel information. And you also need an intact nervous system just to send the messages to your brain. In addition to the physical part, there's also the cognitive part. You need to be able to process sensory information. You need to be able to sort out distractions, and you need to be able to respond in a timely manner. Well, the good news, bad news is as we age, our body is affected by aging. Those muscles are not as strong. They're not as flexible anymore. Your vision is not going to be as good as it was in the past, and neither is your hearing. And in fact, we found that a lot of the different illnesses related to our eyes can impact how well we can drive. But having reasonable vision checks and following your doctor's recommendations may be able to keep you driving a little bit longer. We know that people lose their hearing as they get a little bit older, and sometimes that can affect them listening to and hearing the sensory input from outside of the car. Lastly, our nerves and our hands and our feet are affected, especially if we have certain disease processes that we'll hear about later on in another series. But know that as we age, our ability to see, hear, and feel those messages sent to our brain diminish a little bit. So these physical changes can actually affect how we're driving. The other thing that happens is our brains slow down. Many of us recognize that right away and go, oh yeah, my brain's slowing down. We process information a lot more slowly. Things like what we're seeing, what we're hearing, situations that are developing. Now typically by about age 65 to 74, we all have a little bit of that, and it's okay. As we hit 75 to 84, more of our people are having these problems, and by age 85, 50% of the people have some cognitive delay. Now, is that good or bad? It can affect how you drive, and being aware of this may help you be more proactive and respond appropriately to what's going on. I will note that COVID has actually made a lot more people have cognitive problems at a younger age. So being cognitively impaired is not only an older person problem, it's an every age problem. So what does that mean? If you have someone who has cognitive changes, you may notice that they freeze when they get stressed. You may notice that they're getting lost or just look lost very frequently. They get anxious when you talk about things like, should you still be driving? They act confused sometimes. They get mad when you ask them, should you be driving or not? You may find them searching for words. You may have them having difficulty remembering your name. They can't find things. My law enforcement friends talk about older adults who've called in and said their car has been stolen. It turns out they just forgot where they parked it. And it's like, oh no, but those are the things that are part of a cognitive change. And one of the things to be aware of is often we as family members don't recognize it right away because the person is really good at hiding and compensating for those changes. I can throw myself under the bus. I have sticky notes many places to remind me what to do or where to go or things like that. But cognitive changes tell us that we may be in trouble when we're driving. In fact, some of the things that you might find is that age-related changes that go along with physical and cognitive changes include people are easily distracted. They become overwhelmed by like high traffic situations. They have trouble judging distances and speed of other vehicles, which is going to impact on some of our statistics later. They may not even recognize that they're getting into trouble when they're out driving. They may have trouble reading road signs, and they may even get lost. And there have been many deaths related to a senior who's cognitively impaired getting lost and ending up dying in their vehicle because they couldn't figure out how to get out of the situation. I look at signs like this on the poster here right now, this would overwhelm many older drivers. And just simply avoiding downtown Minneapolis or downtown St. Paul is the way some of them cope with it. Being careful in road construction is another one to consider. Some of the physical changes, though, we see, they don't have the strength and flexibility to brake or accelerate. I even know of some that didn't know if their foot was on the gas or on the brake and had sticky notes to indicate where the gas or where the brake pedal was. They may not be able to turn their head to check for that traffic coming out from the left side. They may be slower to respond in emergent braking situations and may not have the auditory or visual warnings about their driving. One of the things I didn't share with you is that I worked on the ambulance for 8 years, and we would say some naughty words when people wouldn't pull over, and my guess is they just didn't hear our siren and knew that they needed to do that. One of the studies showed physical and cognitive impairment that's associated with aging actually can lead to driving mistakes similar to someone driving under the influence of drugs or alcohol. And we'll talk about a screening tool that law enforcement is using that can actually identify these cognitive mistakes that are going on. Medications and medical conditions can also add on top of that. So aging is part of how we change. But then throw in medications and medical conditions, and you'll see that driving changes even more. Now let's add in distraction. Remember, I've already mentioned that our brains process things a little bit slower as we get older. They actually did a test, and they tested drivers 55 and older and found they were 8 seconds slower than millennials responding to on-screen technology. So when your car all of a sudden says, bing, my car is telling me it might be icy out. It takes me 8 seconds longer than a younger driver to look at that screen, read the message, process the information, and respond to the info. We'll do some statistics later that talk how far you moved during that time, but as you can see on the screen, while this driver was busy checking their cell phone, they ran into someone. So distraction is one more thing that affects our driving. It's important to be aware of these normal changes that occur with aging, recognize how and why they're affecting our driving skills, and then we can take some actions to prevent those crashes, prevent injury to ourselves and maybe even our death, and recognize it's these basic changes in vision, hearing, reaction time, our ability to feel and act, as well as our ability to think and respond, are all important things to be aware of. I will note that many drivers decide to retire from driving at about age 75 just because they know these things are affecting their driving. Or maybe they just cut back when they drive. They maybe only drive during the day. They maybe only drive in low-speed areas. Those are some things to think about because we all age. Some of us accept that aging better. Some don't accept it at all. So next time, tune in. We'll talk a little bit about crash numbers. But in the meantime, thanks for listening.